In England and Wales, what's the national speed limit on a single carriageway road for a rigid lorry with a maximum authorised mass of more than 7.5 tonnes? 50 miles per hour. What's the speed limit on a dual carriageway when you're carrying a load that's 4.5 metres, 14 feet 9 inches wide? 35 miles per hour. When would the driver of a car transporter need to be most aware of the front overhang of the trailer? When turning. What effect could a load of hanging meat carcasses cause when you drive around corners or bends? The pendulum effect. What's the main reason for cleaning your wheels and tyres when you leave a building site? To stop mud dropping onto the road. What should you do if the load on your lorry becomes insecure? Park and re-secure the load before continuing. You've finished recoupling. How should you make sure that the tractor and trailer are secure? Try to move forward with the trailer parking brake on. What should you do when you're unable to see clearly while you're reversing into a loading bay? Get someone to guide you into the bay. This lorry is turning right from the side road. What should the driver be especially aware of? The motorcyclist from the right passing the parked van. Which load is most likely to move forward with some force when you brake sharply? Tubular metal. In what circumstances will short wheelbase vehicles bounce more noticeably than long wheelbase vehicles? When empty. When may red diesel be used? For authorised purposes only. What should you do when you want to join a motorway where traffic is flowing freely? Build up your speed on the slip road before joining the motorway. You're the driver of a fuel tanker. What danger should you be aware of when opening the tank hatches? Slippery walkways. You're parking your lorry at night. Where must you use parking lights? On the road. Which of these vehicles is most at risk from strong side wind? An unladen lorry with box body. You're driving this box van and are waiting to turn right. What should you do just before turning? Check your right-hand mirror and blind spot. What must you do when you park a lorry weighing more than 7.5 tonnes on a verge for essential loading? Make sure the lorry is always attended. What should you do when you're working on a vehicle platform? Walk forward near the edges. What does changing to a lower gear on a long downhill gradient help to avoid? Brake fade. What can help to reduce fuel consumption? Changing filters regularly. Your vehicle has a maximum authorised mass of 40 tonnes. The curbside weight is 15 tonnes. What's your maximum payload? 25 tonnes. Your vehicle has a maximum authorised mass of 40 tonnes. The tare weight is 10 tonnes. What's your maximum payload? 30 tonnes. When must you take extra care if you're driving a vehicle more than 3 metres, 10 feet high? When driving under overhead cables. What's the minimum height of an unmarked bridge? 5.0 metres, 16 feet, 6 inches. Under EU rules, a driver must take regular breaks from driving. What maximum period of continuous driving is allowed? 4.5 hours. You've been driving non-stop since 5 a.m. The time is now 9:30 a.m. Under EU rules, what length of break must you take? At least 45 minutes. Your vehicle is fitted with an analog tachograph. What should you do if you need to exceed the normal driver's hours due to an emergency? Continue using the same tachograph chart and write an explanation on the back. What's most likely to cause tiredness? Having insufficient breaks from driving. You're trying to resuscitate a casualty who isn't breathing. For how long should you continue? Carry on until an ambulance arrives. When should you stop trying to resuscitate a casualty? When they can breathe without help. At an incident, you suspect a casualty has back injuries. What's the best way to help them? Leave them where they are. You're checking your vehicle's tyres before starting a long motorway journey. What check should be made on each tyre? Air pressure. You're driving along a motorway. What should you do if the air pressure warning device starts to operate? Stop on the hard shoulder as soon as possible. What should you do before leaving your vehicle parked on a public road? Switch off the engine. What's the first thing you should check before moving to the right? The offside mirror. The MSM routine should be used when you negotiate a hazard. What do the initials MSM stand for? Mirrors, signal, manoeuvre. What should you check just before you turn left? The left-hand mirror. Which vehicles are most likely to cause severe damage to road surfaces? Lorries. You're following a lorry that's leaking fuel. What should you be especially aware of? The road may be very slippery. Which sign means no stopping? What does this arm signal mean? The driver intends to turn left. What does this marker count down to? A concealed level crossing. Under EU rules, you may drive for up to 9 hours a day. What maximum may this be increased to on 2 days of the week? 10 hours. Before starting a journey, you want to check your brake system warning lights. What can you do when these aren't operated by the ignition switch? Look for a check switch on the dashboard. You're driving through the night. What could it mean if your steering feels lighter than normal? There's ice or frost on the road. When should you check the oil level in your engine? When the engine is cold. Where are you most likely to find pedestrians stepping into the road? Shopping areas. What's most likely to cause danger to a group of horse riders? The noise of your vehicle. What should you do as you approach a zebra crossing? Be prepared to stop in good time. You're driving a high-sided vehicle in very windy conditions. Where should you avoid travelling? Across suspension bridges. You're driving in heavy rain. What should you do if your steering suddenly feels very light? Ease off the accelerator. You're driving along a motorway and see this sign. What does it mean? There's a long uphill gradient ahead. Your vehicle is fitted with a reverse warning bleeper. How will this affect you when you're reversing? You'll need to take all-round observation. You're about to pass this car. What's the main hazard you should be aware of? The driver's door may suddenly open. Which vehicles are most likely to be affected by side wind? Motorcycles. You've stopped on a firm level surface. What's the first thing you must do before you uncouple the trailer? Apply the parking brake. High-sided vehicles can be affected by side wind. On which type of road is this most likely? Open roads. What's the best way to control your vehicle when driving on snow? Drive slowly in a higher gear than normal. It's very windy and you're overtaking a motorcyclist on a motorway. What should you be aware of that may cause them problems? The buffeting effect. What's the minimum distance you should allow for braking when it's raining heavily? Twice the normal distance. What's the greatest risk to your safety when you're overtaking on a motorway in very wet weather? Your tyres may lose grip. Why are brushes fitted to this vehicle's wheel arch? To reduce spray on wet roads. How should you drive through floodwater? Slowly, in a low gear, with engine speed high. You're driving down a long hill. What should you use to prevent the brakes from overheating? The endurance brake, retarder. You're following a car being driven slowly by a learner driver. What should you do if it isn't safe to overtake it? Be patient and stay well behind. Which of these is an unsafe place to park your vehicle or trailer? Near the brow of a hill. What can seriously affect your concentration while driving? Tiredness. As a driver, what should you do when you attend a social event? Avoid drinking alcohol completely. What's a crawler lane for? To enable slow-moving traffic to move further over to the left on uphill gradients. When do drivers of long vehicles need to straddle lanes? When they need to avoid mounting the curb. You're turning left from a main road into a side road. What should you do if people are already crossing the road into which you're turning? Wait and allow them to cross. Where would you see this sign? On the rear of a school bus or coach. You're approaching a roundabout. What should you do if you see a cyclist signalling to turn right? Give the cyclist plenty of room. Why do motorcyclists often look over their right shoulder just before turning right? They need to check the traffic in their blind area. What action should you take if there are flashing amber lights under a school warning sign? Reduce speed until you're clear of the area. You're following two cyclists as they approach a roundabout in the left-hand lane. In which direction should you expect them to go? Any direction. You're driving in fog on a 3-lane motorway. Which lane are you in when you can see red reflective studs on your left and white reflective studs on your right? The left-hand lane. While driving at night, you see a pedestrian ahead. What does it mean if they're wearing reflective clothing and carrying a red light? You're approaching an organised walk. What should be your main concern as you approach this sign? Your vehicle's length. What effect will drinking alcohol have on your driving? A false sense of confidence. What should you do if you see a lorry too close behind when you're driving in traffic on the motorway? Increase your distance from the vehicle in front. You're driving on a motorway. What colour are the reflective studs on the right-hand edge of the carriageway? Amber. You've had an incident while driving through a tunnel. You aren't injured, but your vehicle can't be driven. What's the first thing you should do in this situation? Switch off the engine and switch on hazard warning lights. While driving through a tunnel, your vehicle catches fire. What's the first thing you should do if the vehicle can't be driven out of the tunnel? Stop at the side of the road and switch off the engine. Where can you get advice to help carry out minor repairs? The Vehicle Handbook. What should you do if you've lost the filler cap for your diesel tank? Get a replacement before driving. What does this motorway sign mean? Right-hand lane closed ahead. For how long is a statutory off-road notification, SORN, valid? Until the vehicle is taxed, sold, or scrapped. You're on a smart motorway. What do the speed limit signs indicate? The speed limit on the sign must be obeyed. How can you plan your route before setting out? Print or write down the route. What's the best type of fluid to drink during work time? Bottled water. Every 5 years, you must complete further training to keep your driver's certificate of professional competence, driver CPC. How many hours of training must you complete over those 5 years? 35 hours. When is there a particular risk of sleep-related incidents? Between 2 a.m. and 7 a.m. Your vehicle is fitted with air brakes. What does it mean if a brake warning light shows when you've just started the engine? Low air pressure. Your vehicle is fitted with air-assisted hydraulic brakes. What fault would you suspect if the brake pedal becomes hard to press? The brake system has a loss of vacuum. What benefit is expected to come from having a driver certificate of professional competence, driver CPC, qualification? A reduction in fuel consumption. You're driving under EU driver's hours. How is a week defined under these rules? Between 0 hours on Monday and 2400 hours the following Sunday. What must vehicle operators provide for their drivers? A system for reporting vehicle defects. How can you find out when an analogue tachograph was last recalibrated?